Welcome to the Insider. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for your support. I hope that we are giving you the things that you need every day. I wanted to talk to you about Iran because I said something yesterday or the day before that I remember Ricky's eyes were like, what are you saying? And then I got a couple of email from some friends that were like, wait, what did you mean by that? And I'm like, well, I meant what I said. This is the most dangerous war of my lifetime. This could be World War III. This could be the final battle, God forbid. But, you know, if you believe in that, there's no clear way through this. There's no clear answer on this. But we can be clear on the facts. And people right now are rejecting facts and they're just going to emotion. It's either orange man bad. We didn't have this kind of pushback on the war in Ukraine. I mean, everybody at the beginning, everybody was for it. Everybody was for it. And we had a senile president directing it. I had no confidence in any of that stuff. And look where that's gotten us. Now, I don't know if this is going to work out any better. I hope, and I'll tell you why I hope later. But I want to start here. Because I don't want to be in the position of talking you into war or out of war. This is something that everybody needs to make. And I want to start in 1796 because there were two American diplomats. They were sitting in London in a drawing room. And in the room, these two guys were sitting here, and right across the room was the ambassador of Tripoli, Libya. And they came to ask him just a simple question. Why? We have never done anything to your country. There's no dispute. There's no border. There's no insult. Why are your corsairs taking our American ships and then selling our American sailors into slavery? What are you doing? And the ambassador, it went into a dispatch back to John Jay, signed by both men. And here's what he told them. He said, well, it's our laws of our prophet. It's all written in our holy book, the Quran. And all nations who don't acknowledge the authority of Allah, they're sinners. And it's our right and our duty to make war upon them wherever we can find them. And we can make slaves out of all the people we want. We can take them as prisoners. We can kill them. We can rape them. We can do whatever we want because you're not Islam. Okay? Can you imagine what that sounded like? I mean, these two really reasonable men, and they had to be like, what are we dealing with here? Okay? Because at the time, Jefferson and John Adams, they didn't have reason to know all of these things. They were new students to this. So Jefferson was one of the guys. John Adams was the other in the room. And they heard the identical sentence coming out of the mouth of this guy. And then they walked out of the room and they both had the opposite conclusion. And Adams said, pay, it's not worth it. It's cheaper than a Navy and everybody else is paying. It buys the peace. We can get on with commerce and the rest of our lives. Just pay it. And Jefferson looked at him and said, you got to be kidding me. He just told you that it is their religious obligation to take you as a slave, rape you, or kill you. What are you thinking? We can't postpone this. You postpone this and the price only goes up and they get stronger. The price only goes up and with your money, they get stronger. That's really, really important. But Adams wins. For 15 years, America paid. The treaty with Algiers, it was in 1795. It ran nearly $1 million. Okay. Our federal budget in 1795 was about $6 million. We built ships. We sent them loaded with cash and, naval stores to men who considered it our tribute, proof of our weakness. Because honestly, that's what it was. And you know what? The seizures continued anyway. They didn't stop. Does any of this sound like today? Let me take you back now. I'm starting there because I wanted you to have that reference that this has been going on forever. And two patriots, both Adams and Jefferson, both two of my favorite founders. I love these guys, and they're both patriots. And I wouldn't deny them that ranking either way. They both, one was for this war, and it's exactly the same thing. For this war, one was against this war. So no matter how you decide, you can still be a patriot. Okay, let's get past the name calling and past the Orange Man bad stuff, and let's actually look at what's happened. But I don't want to, we're going to stay out of the ancient history, and we're going to go here in the last 47 years, because this began 47 years ago. What actually took place in 1979, what actually took over in 1979, the Iranian Revolution. It was not a religious revolution that later went bad. It was a coalition, and the coalition is the whole story. You're going to hear in today's lesson plan, if you will. That's why I've been saying all day. I feel like you have to print a T-shirt that says, we've been here before, okay? Because we have been in almost everything. From Jefferson in the 1790s, Jefferson and Adams, we're there again. To 1979, we're there again. Khomeini's clerics were a minority partner in a street movement that ran on Marxism, okay? The Tuda Party, the Fedayeen, I think it is, and another one that I can't pronounce. The vocabulary of 1978 Tehran was the oppressed and the oppressor, the wretched of the earth, imperialism, the dependent bourgeoisie. Does any of that sound familiar? Because that's exactly what's happening. What's happening in America today is built on Marxist bones, but it has this Muslim undertone that joins it, okay? So these people had spent a decade translating Fanon into Shia idiom and building a theology where Islam was the vehicle and the revolution was the cargo, okay? And then Khomeini stepped in, and he took the coalition, and he took the country, and then he executed his partners. The Marxist arm, by 1983, the Tuda, which was the Marxist arm, they built the ladder to climb the wall. They were destroyed, and its leaders were confessing on television. That's why I say dates to remember. 1978, this is when all of this begins. November 4th, 1979, that's when they go in and they take our embassy. Okay. 1983, Tuda Party, done. And then 1988, that's when the prison massacres begin. The left had built the ladder to climb over the wall of imperialism. The Muslims took that, and then they used that ladder to put all the Marxists on the roof, and they threw them off the roof, literally. But the ideology kept the structure. Not private property, state property, foundations. Not the individual, the ummah, the community, the collective. And an enemy defined not by conduct, but by essence. We were not called the adversary. We were then named the Great Satan. That isn't even a diplomatic category. I mean, where does Satan fall into the, okay? Satan in this theology is not a rival power you negotiate with. This is so important because you have to look at it from their point of view. You say you can't negotiate with, we can't negotiate, or we should negotiate, okay? Why? Because they're crazy. They're crazy radicals. They don't negotiate with us either. Because we're the great Satan. You don't negotiate with the great Satan. All he does is whisper lies. So you can try to fool the great Satan, but his very existence is the offense here. If you look at November 4th, 1979, that embassy seizure, that's when they came in, the students came in and they took the embassy. Diplomatic immunity is a concept between states. We have to have your embassy is meant to be your sovereign territory, okay? And if you don't recognize that, well, then we're not legitimate, okay? So they didn't think they were violating a norm here. They were exercising a presence. They were getting rid of the great Satan. And underneath it all, the piece we never let ourselves take seriously is the Twelvers and their end times eschatology. The 12th Imam, hidden since 874, to return at a time of maximum chaos and when injustice fills the earth because it's been filled with tyranny from the great Satan. Khomeini's innovation, the guardianship of the jurist, was the claim that the clergy rules on the hidden imam's behalf until he comes back. So their clerics, they speak for God. They speak for the 12th Imam who's coming back at any time. It would be like if our president said and our Congress said, you know what, Jesus is coming back and we can hasten him coming back and he's going to come back soon. And the more chaos we bring to the world, the sooner he'll come. And we all want him to come. So let's just cause a lot of chaos and death. And we got to go after the great Satan because God has told us to do that. Jesus needs us to do that. And as soon as we get rid of the great Satan, that's when Jesus is coming back. But until then, just listen to us, trust us. We're going to tell you who you can vote for, what's right, what's wrong, because we're speaking for Jesus. Okay, that's what's happening. You compare that to North Korea. That's not what's happening in North Korea. The Kim family wants palaces. They want cognac. They want grandchildren. They want basketball stars to come over and visit them. Their nuclear program is a life insurance policy. And life insurance logic is something that we understand and we can price in. That's mutually assured destruction. That's what happened with us in Russia. But a regime whose founding charter says history has a destination, and chaos is the doorway to that destination that we have to walk through. They don't price risk the same way, okay? It doesn't mean they're suicidal. The record shows that they are very patient and very careful. It means that we have been running a deterrence model built for men who fear death against an institution that has spent 47 years telling us its own people that martyrdom is a promotion. So you have to understand that first. If you cannot get your arms around that, if you think like a Westerner, then you can't understand this, okay? And I think John Adams thought like a Westerner. And at the time, we had more time. The difference between then and now is nuclear weapons. It's over the minute somebody drops a weapon. If they get a weapon, it changes everything. Because even if they don't use it, now they control the choke point, which I'm going to get into. But I want you to look at, we have been here before. Number 3, what works and what doesn't? I listed all the presidents: Carter, Reagan, Bush 41, Clinton, Bush 43, Obama, Trump 45, Biden, and Trump 47. Trump 45 and Trump 47 are different. They're acting differently, okay? Because there is a learning curve. So let's go back to Carter. They take our people hostage in our embassy. And Carter decides we're going to get the hostages out. So he sends Desert One. And it becomes a helicopter graveyard in the Iranian desert. It's humiliating, okay? We don't get anything. Reagan comes in and they free our hostages. Now, Reagan talked as hard as any man ever has, but then the Beirut barracks, 241 Marines were killed on October 23rd, 1983, by the same network that we now call Hezbollah. We pulled out of Lebanon 4 months later. That is what taught the Middle East we can make this giant come to their knees, okay? So when we pulled out, because he didn't want to broaden the war, he threw some missiles at them, and then we said, okay, and then we left, and that taught Osama bin Laden, oh my gosh, look what I can do, okay? And then he started selling the missiles. And this is the Iran-Contra thing. It was a tribute with a shipping manifest. We were paying a tribute, okay? Adams' argument in a Boeing. Now, some people say that Reagan knew. Some people say Reagan didn't know. But it's the same thing that the president uncovered in his last administration, that he said, I didn't know what was going on, and they kept it from me. The Iran-Contra affair was a big deal. For some reason, when this president exposes what happened in his administration, everybody yawns. It's very important, okay? But somebody made the decision, be it Reagan or I don't think it was, or be it, the people who thought he would like that, they decided to bargain, and it didn't work. So he talked tough, it didn't work. He negotiates, it doesn't work. So then Bush 41 gets in. Now he takes, what path is he going to take? In his inaugural address, he says goodwill begets goodwill. Iran took goodwill. We were dealing with all kinds of stuff in the Middle East, but Iran took goodwill. Then Clinton gets the Khobar Towers in 1996. 19 of our airmen dead. It's a indictment, and in the indictment, it named Iranian officials, and then we answered it with nothing. Okay, so did they actually goodwill beget goodwill, or were they planning? Because that didn't start being planned. When Clinton got in, they're like, Bush is So then Secretary Albright apologizes in 2000 for 1953, unilaterally, hoping this gesture is going to open a door. It didn't open a door. Then Bush 43 comes in and he says the axis of evil, and he spends his entire capital in Baghdad and Kabul. That is the Iranian, that's what's in the east and the west of the Iranian country, okay? And I said at the time I was for the war and then against it, because I said the head of the snake at the time, this is 2004, the head of the snake is Iran. And what I think he's trying to do is he's trying to go to the east, and then he's going to go to the west, and he's going to push, and he's going to pop the head of the snake and hope the people rise up. But that just, somehow or another, that fell apart. And it might have fallen apart because we had a stretched force, no appetite for a third front, and his policy became, something that he referred to the Security Council. Resolution 1737 and 1747. Sanctions. European buy-in. Quietly. Sabotage. Stuttnex. Is that how you say it? Stuttnex? I can't remember. But he chose the slow squeeze because the fast option of hitting them on both sides and popping them with the military was off the table. So we're going to squeeze them, and we're going to infiltrate, and we're going to sabotage, because at the time they were close to getting a nuclear weapon. Were they? I don't know. Then Obama comes in and he says, well, this isn't working. So I'm going to try the opposite. Now I'm going to give Obama a great benefit of the doubt. Probably shouldn't, because I think he's cut from the same cloth as Mamdani. But he's watching the Green Movement die in the streets in 2009 without a word of American support. Okay? That speaks volumes to me. He's like, nope, you know what? People are rising up. He could have actually solved that, probably just by supporting it, but he decided not to. He felt talking to the regime mattered more than the people fighting in the streets. So then what does he do? He does the JCPOA. This is his big, deal with them. And it has sunset clauses in it. It makes the restrictions expire on their own. No inspection of military sites. No limit on missiles. No limit on proxies. And cash. $400 million on pallets. Part of a $1.7 billion settlement. Delivered as prisoners came home. Okay. Well, that's going back to John Adams. On steroids. Okay. So Trump leaves the deal. When he's 45, he leaves the deal. And he runs maximum pressure. And the economy screamed. It was not doing well. They were collapsing. And then enrichment went up, not down, up. Biden comes in, and for some reason, he loosens the enforcement. He unfreezes $6 billion in Qatar. And what do we get for it? We get October 7th and a proxy ring on fire in South Lebanon. Remember, we loosen the deal and we get October 7th. So we have seen throughout all of these, including Trump 45, we have seen two tools, sanctions and money. Punish them into reasonableness or pay them into reasonableness. Both tools make the same assumption that, the other side of the table is a government that wants what governments want. They want to survive, and we're negotiating with a state, and they're conducting a mission, and they all want to survive, and so we can negotiate. Did it ever work? Has it once, either one of those, worked? I have my opinion, but this is my opinion. No. Neither one of those have worked. We have every single one of them, both of trying both ways, carrot and stick, have just kicked the can down the road. You remember Harry Truman had a sign on his desk that said, "The buck stops here"? I think there should be a can on Donald Trump's desk that says, "The can stops here." Because he's not kicking the can down to the next, on almost anything, but especially on this. He's not kicking the can. So why is this not like other times? Well, October 7 is one. We saw what happens when you empower them and you give them money. They grow, and then they do things like October 7. On February 28th of this year, the United States and Israel opened with roughly 900 strikes in 12 hours. The first wave killed the Ayatollah Khomeini, and they killed him in his own office. And, they killed him and then all of the senior leadership. That was not a warning shot. That was a message. Now, his son, apparently, and I don't know what to believe, because some people say he's gay, some people say he's not gay, some people say he's alive, some people say he's not alive. I don't know what to believe. I think gay and dead, quite honestly. But because he's not shown his face, there's not been a picture of him that you could prove was taken today. I mean, even Mitch McConnell was like, with the newspaper. Nobody has seen him, no verified audio, nothing. Just statements read on television, post on a social media account, and a video that the regime has generated using AI. It's the most powerful office in the Islamic Republic. And it's being administered by a press release. Now, let me ask you, how long would you put up with that here in America if you knew that Trump had been wounded? Okay, because we know what they say is he was wounded, badly wounded. And you knew that he was wounded 6 months ago, and you had not seen him, you had not heard him, you had not seen a picture of him, no video of him, and all you got were press releases saying, "Yeah, I'm definitely alive." How long would you buy that? Would you buy that for 6 months? Because I wouldn't. I'd be like, he's dead. So we started bombing them. Then we made a peace deal. And I told you why we made, not a peace deal, we made a ceasefire deal. And I told you in recent shows why. And it's important that you understand that. The president knew that he outmaneuvered our best thinkers at the Pentagon. Our best thinkers at the Pentagon said, this is the way we fight this. And when we do fight this, God forbid we ever have to fight it, oil will go to $150 to $350 a barrel. That collapses the economy. That's why all of these guys kick the can down the road, because there's no way out. And the Pentagon knew it. So all the advisors said, can't do it because it'll do this. Donald Trump says, well, that's not how I'm going to fight the war. I'm going to fight the war differently, and I'm going to keep the strait open. And they're like, Mr. President, you're not going to be able to. Well, really? Watch me. Because here's how we're going to do it. So they all get on board, and they're all like, okay. And he has kept the price between $110 and $70 a barrel. Today, I think it's an $83 or $88 a barrel, something like that, which is totally doable. We've had that kind of price before. At 120, it starts to get really dicey. I mean, it's expensive, but it's economy collapsing at 120 to 150 sustained. The economy collapses. So his advice, or his advisor said, don't go in because the economy collapsed because of the price of oil. He said, no, that's not a problem. Now, I believe that he thought this would end quicker. I think he really thought that there would be somebody that he could kill the top people at the very beginning, and the others would go like, I don't want to die, so I'm with them. But he didn't take into account, I think, how diehard these 12ers actually are. They are in it for the long run. And so this has lasted longer than he thought it would. And because of that, we have had to open up our strategic oil reserves. China opened up their strategic oil reserves. Europe opened up their strategic oil reserves. Everybody now is out of oil in our strategic oil reserves. Out. That's meant for wartime. If we're at the beginning of the war, we're in deep, deep trouble, because there's no cushion now to bring the price from $150 down to $100 a barrel. There's no price. If somehow or another oil cannot come through that choke point to us, we can't run our ships and our airplanes. This is extraordinarily dangerous. And the president has told me, he was given information, he didn't tell me what it was, but he was given information that said, if I continue and I don't put a pause on this right now, we could have a global economic collapse. And his quote to me was, and I am not going to be Herbert Hoover. I am not going to put the world into an economic depression. So he paused. Now we're back at it again. 17 Americans are dead, more than 400 wounded. We had 4 die this weekend. Hormuz has been blockaded since March. This is probably the most severe energy supply disruption in history. More than 1 billion barrels have been lost, roughly 100 million more every single week that it stays shut. But it's not shut, because if it was shut, we wouldn't have $88 a barrel of oil today. So what did Trump see? What did 47 see that 45 wasn't willing to do? What did Trump 47 see that none of the others were willing to see? Let's take an honest inventory. I'm an alcoholic. Begins with an honest inventory. Some of it is intelligence, I'm sure. He was told that they were close. Now, he's been told that before. I've been on the air for 50 years. I mean, I've been watching this thing since 1979. I know. And as soon as they started doing cascading, they had their enrichment program, and they were cascading the plutonium, and they could get the uranium, and they could get the uranium that they really needed. That's when things got serious, and I think that was right around the turn of the century, around 2000. And ever since then, during Bush, the second term, I remember them saying, they're close, they could be within weeks. And then Obama, they're within weeks. And then Donald Trump, they're within weeks. And then Biden, they're within weeks. And there never seemed to be within weeks. But this time, for some reason, he was told we were close. Well, people have been wrong in both directions on this thing, okay? The March 2025 assessment said that Iran was not building a weapon. The leaked damage report after the 2025 strike said the sites were hurt but not obliterated. Okay, so wait. You read those files, I've got to weigh between being wrong about the bomb against being wrong about the bluff. I don't know. I don't know what's happening. Some of this reason why I think we went in is because of the drones. Iran is not a client buying drones anymore. The Shahed design went to Russia. Then the tooling went to Russia. Then Russia built a factory, and they started turning them out by the thousands against the Ukrainian apartment buildings. A sanctioned pariah became a defense supplier to a nuclear great power in the middle of a European land war. This is now a different animal than we sanctioned in 2012. And some of this, maybe the largest part, is the map. Okay? We don't know about their nukes. They're now a defense supplier building really dangerous weapons in drones. We're in the middle of a European war. And now the map, which takes me to Denmark, 1429 to 1857. I can't believe we're talking about Denmark. This is why this is not on the main show, because hello, nerds. I'm your king. 428 years. That's how long this went on. Every ship that entered the Baltic Sea paid a toll to the King of Denmark. Not a tax on Danish goods, a tax on other people's trade, collected because Denmark happened to own both sides of that narrow piece of water into the Baltic. Okay? The Sound Dues is what they were called. They ran from 1429, and at their height, they were a third of the Danish crown's entire income. Europe grumbled, but they paid because the alternative was war, and the toll was cheaper than war. Adams, okay? Until 1857. Who refused to pay it? Us. The United States. We said, you know what? We've had enough of this. We're not going to recognize your levy. And we're not going to pay it. And so everybody went to the negotiating table, and that was the Copenhagen Convention. And it was a one-time buyout. And the permanent principle that a strait is not a possession. That's really important to this. You can't own a strait. The Kiel Canal came later. Why? Why did they build this canal? They built this canal because they knew somebody's going to look at that strait at some point in the future and go, you got to pay us a toll, and it'll choke everything down. So they made a canal, making the choke point optional. That's the key to this. I think it is misdirection. I think it's serious. I think it's real, the nuke part of it. I think it's real. I think the drones are a real part of this. But I think the choke point and the canal that is being built right now in the Gulf at the speed, that the infrastructure world doesn't believe, okay? There is an east-west line, 1.5 million barrels a day, in service by early 2027. It's a bypass, and it was already half constructed. Saudi Arabia weighing 2 million barrel expansion to the Red Sea. Iraq back at the table on a Mediterranean corridor through Turkey. Goldman Sachs counts 7 different projects now and puts Gulf pipeline capacity over 14 million barrels a day by 2028. More than 60% of what those 7 states exported before the war, now moving in places Iran cannot touch with a speedboat or a mine. That, I think, is what this is all about. This is not being held hostage by crazy people, trying to take them out, trying to reduce them so they hopefully would overthrow the government. But if that doesn't happen, that doesn't happen. But keep the oil running while we build an end to the choke point. And by the way, none of that gets financed in peacetime because everybody knows. For 50 years, they've been talking about this, and they did the arithmetic, and they just chose John Adams. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. It took the toll being collected at gunpoint in front of the whole world to make the bypass cheaper than the risk. That's the prize. It's not the crater at the Fordo plant. Craters will get dug out. The prize is the permanent expiration of Iran's veto over the world economy. That's the only asset that ever made a broke, isolated, demographically hollowing theocracy into a power anyone had to consult. The choke point. Why are we dealing with these madmen? Isolate them. We can't because they own the choke point. Get rid of the choke point. Okay, so now here's why the ending matters more than the beginning. I don't know how this ends. I don't know how long this goes on. I know we have to make it to 2027 because that's when that choke point begins to become irrelevant. By 2028, it is irrelevant. Now, you can think this war was a mistake, and, you might be right. But you have to understand one thing. A loss is not a available option to us now. If the regime survives with the Strait as a demonstrated weapon, the toll booth becomes permanent, and the lesson goes out to every country sitting on a choke point. Malacca, Bab el-Mandeb, the Bosphorus, all of it. If it survives with a decapitated leadership and an intact IRGC, what remains is not a government. It is an armed vanguard with a country attached. And the moderating layer of old clerical politicians who occasionally counseled patience is dead. If this survives at all, the nuclear question comes back with the argument settled in favor of the bomb. Because the one thing this war has proven to Tehran is that they didn't have one when they needed one. And then there are the Iranians themselves, the ones who came out into the streets in January, the U.S. based HRANA said died by the thousands. Now, we don't know, we can't independently verify that, but it's probably true. And that should haunt all of us. Because a wounded regime that comes out of the other side does not liberalize, it hunts. It always hunts. Ask the Tuda, the people who built the ladder for him. It hunts. As I was thinking about this last night, and I thought about what to say here and how they hunt, how a wounded regime hunts, I immediately thought of what we are in store for in 2028. We have greatly wounded the left, not Democrats, the left. We have greatly wounded them. USAID, all of this stuff, we've wounded them. If we don't finish the job, they will come back and they too will hunt. The proxies have read the ending too. Hezbollah, the Houthis, the militias in Iraq, every one of them is a franchise. And the franchise follows the parent company's stock price. If Iran is out, they are out. Jefferson finally got his way. He sent the Navy, and America stopped paying, and the seizures stopped. And it took two wars and 20 years. Something we should have started in 1786. The ambassador told us the truth in that London drawing room. He wasn't being cagey. He wasn't posturing for leverage. He just didn't have social media at the time, so they were less afraid to say it out loud. And he told two future presidents precisely what they believed and precisely what they intended. And one of them believed him, and the other one said it was cheaper not to believe him. They told us in 1979. They put it on the walls. They have never stopped once. Never once have they stopped chanting death to America. The whole American argument for 240 years has been about whether to take them at their word or not. I have always felt when somebody says they're going to kill you, you have to take them at their word. You must. And that may mean sometimes you just build a wall that they cannot penetrate. But when those people have demonstrated that, A, they're serious, and they've demonstrated that it doesn't matter, they'll have somebody else do it at your kid's school. They'll have somebody else come in, and they're organizing the entire neighborhood to kill you and your family. You're suicidal to dismiss that. You're suicidal not to either move, which we can't, or to respond and take it seriously. This is not a negotiation. It really isn't. It really isn't. And I think the president has kind of made that clear. You know, he wants to negotiate. He wants to have peace. He wants to find reasonable people there. But I think he has given up on finding reasonable people. I think he knows now exactly what he's dealing with. And today he has said that if you strike any of our soldiers, our boats, our planes, any ship, you will lose a bridge. For every time you drop a bomb, we drop a bomb on a bridge. And then we drop a bomb on your power plant. And I believe he said the first one is going to be the power plant in Tehran. So you know, that is, that'll change their world. That'll change their world. His plan now, I think, is to weaken them so much that their own people can step up and maybe, I don't know, maybe people who are rehearsing and been dying for this opportunity up in the north will come down. I hope this doesn't ever call for troops, ours or otherwise. I hope they surrender. I pray they surrender. But I can't tell you how this ends. Nobody can, not even the president. He is confident, but he's also aware of the cost. And he is currently trying to juggle many things. He's trying to send a message to them, I'm never going to stop, while sending the message to Americans, I'm almost done. That's almost impossible. And we're the ones tying the hands because we're the ones at the table who will not, you know, when you're in negotiations, no matter what the lead negotiator says, no matter what, if you're on that side of that table, no matter what the lead negotiator, you know what? We walk. You don't do this, we walk. Even though you just had a conversation outside, you're saying, we're not going to walk. Whatever we do, we're not going to walk. You do not turn to your lead negotiator and go, wait a minute, we don't walk. You don't do that, ever. You lose the minute you do that. You just go, I'd listen to him. And then when you get into the hallway, you go, are you out of your mind? We're not doing that. And that's why they have more confidence than they should. Because even at the leadership fit, I don't care if you disagree with him. If you are in Washington, you disagree with the president, that's fine. Say it to him in the Oval. Say it to him privately. Be as strong as you want to, but you don't say it on the floor of the Senate or the House. You don't go on television that's not just watched by Americans, it's being watched and analyzed by everybody in China, Russia, every enemy we have, and especially in Iran. If they think that the president has lost the support of Congress or the people, they're going to go on and on and on. The strongest thing we can all do is disagree privately. Disagree and call your senator and say, I want this stopped, but I would really appreciate it if you did it privately. Stop going on television and saying these things because it's only hurting us. You want negotiations to work? If everyone, this is never going to happen, but if every one of us were like, yeah, and then we're coming for you. We're going to drop the bomb on the bridge, but we're dying for a fight. We can't wait for a fight. We want to send our boys over there so badly. They'll freak out. We have taught the world the exact opposite. They know us. They know us. They know we have no stomach. So he is trying to keep this off the front page. All of the things that are going on when we're dropping bombs and they're dropping bombs, he's trying to say, it's not a big deal, not a big deal. Why? Because he has to keep oil prices down. Otherwise, we all go bankrupt. So he's got to keep oil prices down. So he's trying to minimize everything while maximizing over there. While saying, yeah, and I'm coming for you, dude. I'm going to make it so bad for you. So he's minimizing here while maximizing over there. He's trying to say we're at maximum war over there while saying we're almost done over here. He's fighting two wars on two fronts. And it's something I've never seen before. I've never seen before, and only he can navigate. And quite honestly, I don't know how any man's body can handle what his body has gone through. I really don't. I don't know how any man's mind can go through what he has gone through. He is under constant attack, and he is staying tough for the American people and tough in war. FDR didn't have to do that. Nobody's had to do that. Nobody. Nixon, maybe, during Vietnam, and you saw how that worked out. It's my hope that I have given you some kind of history. You know, I think the Tudeh Party is something that is so important because we're fighting this war at home and abroad. When the president said last week, it was last week, he held his press conference and nobody's talking about it. Remarkable stuff came out of that press conference. But what he was saying was there is a movement. There is a movement of communists and Marxists, and they are working together all over the world to overthrow. Wow, it sounds like an old chalkboard of 2008. But what's happening is an exact replay. And I have to tell you, I'm telling you now, Marxists, you're going to be the first eaten. You think you control them. I mean, that's the amazing thing. They got in with the Islamist, and they got into the Democratic Party, and the Islamist and the socialists said, don't worry about it. We'll be friendly with them until we don't need them anymore, and we'll eat them. Now they're eating them. But what the Islamists are saying, as they're in the same party with everybody who is marching for rainbow colors, and the real Islamists are like, I've got to kill them right now. Somebody's going, don't worry. We'll kill them later. We'll kill them. Don't worry. Just let them win. Then we'll control them. We'll kill them. That's what's happening. That's what's happening. Because it happened before. We cannot let these people win here or there. We're in a different situation than we've ever been in before. And unlike the Soviet Union, they don't understand the rules of MAD. Hope that's helpful. Love to take your questions. If you want to just send them in or post them, I will try to answer all of your questions the best way I can on the regular show, but I hope that was helpful. Thanks for watching. Thank you so much for supporting. It means the world to me. And I think it's going to make a difference. My wife and I were talking about it yesterday. And I'm going to outline something on the show. I really think this is going to make a huge difference in the long run. I think people will look back and go, what happened? And a president will get the credit. But I truly believe it will be because of you. It'll be because of something that comes from this group of dedicated, as you have now been dubbed, I guess, torchies. And I thank you for watching. We'll see you tomorrow on the radio. God bless.